Hello everybody, this is John. Hope you've been having a great week, and this is the weekly Ag Weather Briefing, September 14th, 2018. Well, I've been sending out information on Hurricane Florence most of the week to keep you updated. I know that's not impacting most of our area, if any of our area, but I thought you'd find it interesting. It's sort of hard sometimes for me to determine what content to put out. So next week I'll probably get back to regular issuances of content, but I wanted to cover Florence here. We also have another tropical system here down in the Gulf. It's very weak, but it's impacting parts of Texas. Really up in the Midwest, Ohio River, what we have here is this front going through, and that is going to be our weather producer this week. Now last week, we've had quite a few tropical type systems that have brought us rain. You can see the remnants of Gordon real clearly here right along the Ohio River, and the areas in red is an estimate of 5 inches of rain. Yellow is 2 to 3. And look at the eastern Corn Belt. Parts of southern Indiana, Ohio, far southern Illinois really received a lot of rain this summer. So very soaking week with that rainfall. So when we look at soil moisture across the Midwest, we see many areas, Ohio, especially southern Wisconsin, parts of that eastern Corn Belt, really quite wet. And even Kansas, which has been running quite dry, we switched that around and we're beginning to get some wet soils in Kansas and Nebraska. So overall, quite wet soils. And I know we're in harvest time, so it's too bad this didn't come earlier in the season, but we are replenishing that soil moisture right now. So maybe we have that now. We need to maybe dry it out, get our harvest in, and then get back to this type of pattern. But definitely wet and replenishment of soil moisture. Now with the clouds and rain, you can see temperatures were held down. That light area of green is indicating a couple degrees below normal. And most of the area modestly either near or below normal over the last week. So here's the latest on Florence, and really it sort of fell, I won't say fell apart, but it really came down in intensity from that category 4 down to a category 2 and even a 1 near landfall. But the story is going to be sort of the water story, and it's going to be storm surge, and also look at the slow movement for the next 24 hours. That means a lot of rain in parts of the Carolinas. You can see a very wet system here, and it's going to produce a lot of flooding. The other system that is interesting is in the Gulf of Mexico. It sure doesn't look like much, but a lot of times systems that don't look like much, they bring in some tropical moisture inland, and they can result in very heavy rain. So parts of South Texas also look quite wet. So what we have is number 1, Florence, number 2, South Texas, and then along that boundary, this is what's going to impact, again, wet areas of Minnesota, wet areas of Wisconsin, more rain, a couple inches of rain in those areas today, and it could even locally near 4 inches, so soils are going to continue to be quite saturated. Now we have a flood wave moving down the Mississippi. It has crested in most areas. It's falling now, but with that rain up in this area, this is the boundary of the Mississippi and the Missouri, that rain up in this area is going to send some more water downstream. I don't think it's widespread enough. I don't think it's enough to really do a whole lot more. It might slow the recession, but tributaries in this area are probably going to be seeing some significant rises. Look at the East Coast, all the moderate, which is red, major, which is purple. We have some very significant flooding. Matter of fact, I don't want to downplay this part here right along the Iowa-Illinois border. We've had moderate and even some major flooding in spots in that reach. So looking ahead here for the next 14 days, what do we see? Well, I think we see a couple things here. We start off here with a general ridge of high pressure right here, sort of a high pressure. So we're going to have some very warm or even hot weather to start. But look how that jet stream changes by the 14-day. This is week 2. We actually get this. So we end up with a broad trough here. That means I think we are going to have some cooler air sliding down into the upper Midwest in week 2, even week 1 here behind that cold front, whereas parts of the far southern Corn Belt are going to remain on the warm side. You can see that here. This is week 1, very unusually warm temperatures, But by week 2, that cool air starts to sink down, and we either return to either normal or even below normal over the upper Midwest. So start to expect that really right through the weekend, unusually warm or hot weather, and then as we get into the latter part of next week, moderating temperatures. So the 6 to 10 day here's your outlook. The orange or brownish shades are above normal, and then as we get into the 8 to 14, you can see generally we get in a little bit of a dip here where we return to normal over the upper Midwest, and perhaps just modestly above normal over the Ohio River Valley. Here's your active weather. It looks like it's going to continue. So parts of Minnesota, Nebraska, northwest Iowa, Wisconsin, that wet pattern with that front right in that area, we could be looking at continued wet soils, harvest delays, and rising rivers right into the 6 to 10 day period. 8 to 14, well, it still looks, with that type of pattern, when we have that jet stream sort of dipping down here, we oftentimes get a stalled boundary in here that gives us a chance of that rain. So it looks like right through the next 2 weeks, chancy type for showers and storms in many areas, but not all areas. So overall, I think the focus this week, Minnesota and Wisconsin, soaking widespread rains, aggravating the flooding, aggravating the soils that are wet. Otherwise, the rest of the region, quiet and quite warm. That's this week's briefing. Hope you have a great week. Feel free to always send me an email. I like to hear what's going on in your operation, your farming operation. I like to hear if you have something I'm not covering you'd like me to cover. If there is something I'm covering that you get a benefit of, let me know so I focus in on that as well. By email, John, John, @bluewateroutlook.com. Have a great week.